We work hard as physicians to take care of the health and well-being of our patients. But when it comes to our money, do we have the same condition of care? Probably not. Let's change that together. Welcome to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast, where we'll fight and advocate for your financial literacy. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. Thanks for being here. Let's jump into the show. Hey guys, I want to welcome you guys to the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. We've got a great episode this week. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button as well as the notifications bell, and be sure to like, comment, and share if you like this episode. And we'll get into this week's sponsor and show. This week's episode is sponsored by CityVest. CityVest has quickly become the most popular and best way for doctors to invest in top-performing real estate private equity funds that are usually reserved for institutional investors. This unique access to investing in these institutional funds is available for the first time ever through CityVest's easy and secure online investment platform. CityVest does the hard work of conducting due diligence and vetting the investments. They even get a third-party due diligence report that is posted on their website. As a result of aggregating a several $million investment amount into their access funds, CityVest gains access to investing in the institutional investment and is able to negotiate better investment terms such as a 12% preferred return. You can check them out at cityvest.com or go to the link in the show notes below. Now on to the show. Before we begin today's content, here is a quick disclaimer. The information and material presented here is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as investment advice. The content is not a recommendation to buy or to sell. Some of the content may be for accredited investors only or may be sponsored posts. Every investment carries risks. Results have not been verified. So carefully weigh those risks against your investment goals and objectives and see if acting on the information matches with your investment thesis. Do your due diligence prior to investing, and as always, do not invest more than you can afford to lose. So welcome everybody to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. And I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, we talk about 4 different types of freedom: financial, emotional, time, and location freedom. And the podcast has grown so that my sphere of influence is growing, and I'm trying to get the word out to the masses. So I bring in creatives, entrepreneurs, people in it, inside and outside of medicine, doing innovative, cutting edge things to bring you the latest information so that you can leave inspired, educated, informed, so that you can live your own personal freedom journey. So today we have a special guest, Dr. Angela Mulrooney, and she's a dentist by trade, but she's going to talk all about personal branding and why it's important in today's post-COVID age. I'll let her introduce herself, but I'll welcome Angela to the show. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Christopher. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know we had connected backstage through Podmatch, and I've looked through your bio, and it's really interesting because really you're talking about, marketing and, building a personal brand and establishing freedom. So take the listeners back, when you first about yourself and, how you got started.
I started liking teeth when I was 2 years old. So that kind of created the path for becoming a dentist. And at 24, my dream came true. And for the first 4.5 years in practice, I worked for other people as an associate, primarily working on children because I was extremely shy. And so it was easier for me to just tell them stories about the sugar bugs I was removing from their teeth than to try to talk to adults about their real problems. So I got stuck into the pediatric part of it. And then I realized I was stifling my potential by staying there. And so I needed to take myself to the next level. I had a choice. I could go back and specialize in something like pediatrics, or I could buy a practice. And the perfect opportunity landed in my lap. One of my old bosses was like, hey, I'm working at this practice. I really don't like doing dentistry. So do you want to take this position off my hands? And so I did. It happened to be for a 78 year-old dentist and I was 28. So there was a 5-decade generation gap between us. And I walked into the practice and all I could see was potential. And I really never thought I wanted to be a business owner. But this practice, it was the most broken down practice I'd ever seen. The carpet was actually black from years of never being cleaned. And everything else was in the same kind of situation. But I saw the potential, so I stepped in and bought the practice from this 78-year-old dentist and turned it from what was known as this not so great practice into this high-end, high-tech practice that was a referral from other dentists for their patients who were afraid of the dentist, who needed IV station, who needed implants, full mouth rehabilitation, lots of different things that most dentists didn't have. So that was my first experience in actually building a brand, because I took this thing in the marketplace that was not desirable, turned it into what I wanted to do, and was able to get other dentists far my senior to actually refer me patients. Unfortunately, I got injured in 2013. I acquired focal dystonia, and that ended my career. So I kept the practice for 2.5 years after I could no longer practice. And then I decided when 2015 hit, the oil crisis, I was in Calgary, which is completely oil-based, and the economy went and completely tanked. I decided to pass the torch on to the next person and sell the practice. I went back to my other profession, which was dancing, which I'd professionally done since I graduated from dental school, built my dance company, and took a year away from dentistry completely because I kind of needed things to unravel as to why that had happened. This had been my dream for 30 years. I was 32 when the dystonia kicked in, and it was a really heart-wrenching time. And I needed to figure out, like, what do I want to do with my life? Can I turn this around? Is there a silver lining to all this? And what I started to realize in that year of just dancing was there was silver linings. I'd been through some experiences that people would never get to go through, or they're going to come across them and they're going to struggle like I did. Like, the owner died halfway through our deal. I got sued by my team in the first year. I ended up losing my ability to practice and had to run a practice from afar. So I had these interesting experiences that I figured I could pass on that knowledge. So after that first year of just dancing, I started to build my business coaching company for dentists called Unleashing Dentistry's Potential, and started to help dentists to figure out how they could niche into what they were passionate about. So it wasn't just about the clinical, it was about what they really wanted to do, what got them excited during the day, and help them build their brands that way. To be able to build that company, I took to LinkedIn and talked about what I knew about niching, about dentistry, about branding. And I went from 200 to 12,000 dental industry followers in a year. And then people started to go, how did you do that? Can you do that for me? So I took on a few of my colleagues' cases and built their LinkedIn and was able to get them similar results. And so that's where Unleashing Influence, the social media company, came in, which became a full-blown agency. It launched officially at the beginning of January 2020. We all know what happened in 2020. So 2 months later, the pandemic hit, and I thought, oh, I'm going to have to lay off these people that I just hired. But instead, we hunkered down. And by 10 months into the pandemic, we had gone from 2.5 full-time team members to 14 full-time team members. Then I decided I didn't want to see snowflakes anymore, decided to move to Nicaragua, and realized I was working 100 hours a week, living in paradise, and not seeing paradise. So I started to divest. Sold off the dance company, sold off the business coaching company for dentists, and sold off the agency part of Unleashing Influence, and niched down into what I'm masterful at, which is taking people, packaging them for their personal brands, helping them to pivot to a new path, and launching the business behind their personal brand. And that's where we stand today.
Nice. Very, very fascinating, very fascinating story, and very, fascinating journey. There's so many talking points. So, well, one thing I really resonated with me was, you have to pivot, and you have to be constantly creating. So, and you built up, sounds like 3 multiple businesses, very successful. And, you didn't do it in the turn you did in the sense of like an entrepreneur and a business owner, hiring out skilled and managing the business. So we can talk about, being a business owner later on, because that's like the operation. But I really am fascinated by the building the personal brand thing, because this is what makes like Apple and all these companies great. And so why is building a personal brand an essential marketing tool?
because people want to know the people behind the company now. And this had already started to happen before the pandemic hit, but when we got completely disconnected from each other, our radar of people who were not authentic became so much more sensitive. And people started to, like, there was all these social justice things that happened. We have DEI happening. We have all these social matters that have come to the forefront, and people want to know what you actually stand for. They want to know if your values are aligned. They want to know if they would feel like they would get along with you personality-wise if they're going to work with you. And so just showcasing the perfect corporate brand with the perfect logo, the perfect tagline, having all these perfect videos and perfect photos is not what people are seeking. They want you to step off your pedestal of perfection. They want to know the human behind the brand. They want to see that you're on the same page as them. Yes, you're on this pedestal of expertise, but they want to know human to human that you are actually someone that they want to support and throw their money towards.
Yeah. And then it's almost like, because I've been reading, I read a lot and I talk a lot and and I contemplate a lot. And it's almost like, it's kind of like in the the industrial age, companies maintain their dominance by rules and regulation and monopolies. And now with the internet and blockchain and everything, now it's building a unique personal brand is kind of like your insurance against calamities. So you bring up a lot of fascinating points. Now you have to be your brand and content and creating. So and then why did you choose LinkedIn as opposed to Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook?
Because the kind of dentist, like, I first took to LinkedIn because I was trying to build the business coaching company for dentists. Entrepreneurial dentists are on LinkedIn. And so it's easier to get to the people who are going to be like-minded to me on that platform. And I was able to get to the decision maker. If I message a clinic on Facebook or I message a clinic on Instagram, I have no idea who I'm talking to. But if I message the person on the profile on LinkedIn, it's more likely that I'm actually talking to that person versus an assistant.
So it sounds like, go where your clientele, go where your followers are, establish base there, your digital presence.
Exactly.
And then, it's kind of interesting. It's like you go where your tribe is, and, it's like in the digital realm, which is going to be really fascinating.
And I did try using the other platforms. Like, I tried to recycle the content to Facebook, to Instagram, but the kind of content that I produce doesn't do well on those kind of things. The kind of content that my clients produce, it's thought leadership content. It's not the fun dancing, entertainment kind of stuff. It's actually high value information that people are looking for. And on LinkedIn, if you're putting out stuff that people can use, they can listen to it, they can apply it and run with it themselves. That's the kind of content that works really well on that platform.
Yeah, absolutely. We hope you don't mind this brief interruption from one of our affiliates.
Doc to Doc is a personal lending solution designed by doctors for doctors. We understand that doctors' financial situations change faster than an insulin drip in ketoacidosis. And we also understand that doctors are the most reliable borrowers in the world. Through our proprietary algorithm, we're able to provide personal loans at great rates with amazing flexibility because we take into account your schooling, your specialty, and where you are in the medical journey. Doctors come to us after they've matched into residency, and we loan for all sorts of personal reasons, from credit card debt consolidation to family expenses and medical bills. We speak with everyone who applies for a loan and offer fixed interest rates and flexible term options without prepayment penalties. If you're a physician looking for a personal loan, fill out our application form now. It only takes 3 minutes, and we'll get back to you with a decision within 24 hours.
One thing I talk to a lot of my, a lot of physician colleagues or just medical in general professionals, dentists, is that a lot of them are not on LinkedIn. And, this idea of social media is actually very foreign to them, even post-COVID. And, a lot of it's still word of mouth and referrals and, who knows who. And so a lot of doctors and professionals, they don't like social media. But and then a lot of professionals, they feel uncomfortable because they're introverted or they just don't feel comfortable sharing. So how do people get comfortable with, if you're introvert at heart, or you just kind of don't feel comfortable sharing? Because if you don't, in today's age, if you're a professional and you don't have a social media or brand presence, you're at a significant disadvantage.
It takes practice. Just like the skills that you learn at medical school, the skills that we learned at dental school. I remember the first day we were drilling on these plaster teeth, and I'm looking over going, am I doing it right? Are you doing it right? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then we're masterful at it after we've been working at it for a while. So it really does take practice, but you have to be intentional with what you're putting out there. Our reputation as healthcare professionals is very important. So we don't want to misstep. We don't want to throw spaghetti against the wall and hope something sticks. We want to figure out what we want to niche into for our expertise that we want to put out there, and then make sure that everything that we do is aligned with that we put out there, so that people aren't confused. People who are confused aren't going to see you as a thought leader. They're not going to see you as the expert that they want to seek out for whatever service you're providing. So we need to make sure we're packaged properly and very congruent across the board, from sales calls to what we put out on LinkedIn or any other social media platform, how we speak on podcasts, how we speak from the stage, so that the total package, no matter what angle you're looking at it from, is the same thing.
Yeah. The other question, or the follow-up question I had is, when it comes to, like, most people, they putting themselves out there with thought leadership content is so difficult. Why is that?
Because you get in your head, especially if you're sitting in front of a camera. Like, you've got this little black hole staring you down, giving you no feedback as to whether you're doing a good job or not. And so these lovely little gremlins come out and they tell you, you shouldn't be doing this. Who's going to listen to you? Why would you share that? Right? And so it's really interesting, because the little voices in our head come out so clear when this little black hole is staring us down. And I worked with people who have spoken from the stage for 30 years. And when the pandemic hit, they're like, I suck on camera. I can't believe this. Like, I can't hold an audience, and I kill it when I'm in person. And so they had to relearn the skills that they needed to be actually able to be captivating to their audience as well. But it is really hard. We have this lovely albatross that our professional schools gave us called, you need to be a professional. So we have this albatross around our neck telling us that we need to be perfect. Being a professional doesn't mean we have to be perfect. It means we have a professional degree that we need to use in our work. What people want now isn't that perfection, though. They want to see the human behind that skill and see if you, again, are on the same page with your values, your personality, all those things. They want to be relatable to you while they seek out that expertise. And so that's why it becomes so important to be using this in this day and age. That's so well said. And I like the idea where your degree and your background, really, that's kind of your entry. And then after that, it's like your experience, and then your people skill, communication skill, your emotional intelligence, and how you leverage that. And your passion is so important.
Yeah.
If you have two people who are very similar and one has passion and one doesn't, you're probably going to pick the one who has passion, as long as everything else is pretty similar, because they seem like they're going to be way more invested in doing a good job in their professional work.
Yeah. What's really interesting about your story that stood out to me was that you traveled as what I did was as a digital nomad, living in a different area in paradise, and running a business. Tell us, because I know, because that's, you have financial freedom, you have time freedom, location freedom. So, and then we'll go into, niching down after that. But, tell us more, what is a digital nomad, and why did you do that?
So digital nomadery means really you can work from anywhere. And honestly, after I lost my ability to practice, I nearly went into bankruptcy, because my population of patients was afraid of the dentist. I had an in-person tell my patients, for sure, she's going to be back in a month. And then 6 months later, I still wasn't back, and I was still paying my team full. I still had full overhead, and it just killed me financially. And after that, I vowed I would never be at the mercy of brick and mortar again. And this was in 2015. So I was really well prepared for the pandemic when it hit. And then when the pandemic hit, I'm realizing I'm sitting in my office in Calgary it's snowy a lot. And I was like, why would I be sitting here in quarantine, but I can be anywhere in the world in quarantine? So I started looking at where I could go. My plan was actually to go and do some international business development in Australia, UK, South Africa. And each of those countries, when I decided to do that, started shutting down the borders because Canada kept having these increases in COVID cases. And so we were locked out of the world. And Nicaragua became the path of least resistance. So that's how I ended up here.
Nice. But yeah, you actually had a lot of foresight to see, that everything was going virtual and digital and preparing for that. So, I know 2020 caught everybody by surprise, and, businesses that couldn't pivot or shift quickly, really struggled. And I really like your moment of decision where you're like, you're not going to be at the mercy of something external, and then you're going to take control. So that's kind of the tenets of one of the principles of this podcast. So you sold your businesses, and then you niche down into your personal brand. Tell the listeners why niching down is so essential for your personal brand.
Well, the dollars that you make when you're niched compared to when you don't niche is night and day. So when I had the 3 companies, they were all doing really well, but my focus was so split between them that I couldn't excel to my highest potential in any of them. I finally finished divesting in end of September 2021. By January 2022, I had the best month yet since I finished being able to be a dentist. So that's October, November, December. It took 3 months after finally niching down into my mastery for me to see a huge increase in my finances. And sometimes that's just the catch up of, you got 3 months of sales or sales calls that you're doing, finally you start capitalizing on that. But I see it time and time again with my clients, the ones who are unfocused, they are unclear with their message, they're super talented and they want to show everyone every single talent. They don't do as well as the ones who package themselves into a niche. And niching sounds terrible for the multi-talented because they're like, well, I'm only going to be able to do one thing for the rest of my life. That is not true. You're going to showcase things in an easy to recognize package to the market, but you're still going to be able to pull in all those tools that you have that you like using. It's just you have to be understandable to the marketplace. But when you're understandable, people buy. When you are niched into a specific thing, people buy because people are looking for experts. They're not looking for a jack of all trades. When people looked at me, even actually one of my first business coaches, after I finished selling off my practice, he didn't want to work with me because he's like, I think you're a flake. You think you can coach dentists and you think you can travel all over the world competing in dance and you think you can do LinkedIn? He's like, no one is that talented. And they started digging into me and looking into my background and talking to other people who knew me. And they're like, yeah, no, Angela can kill it at all these things. But for the average person looking at that, when you're putting out that many offerings and that much talent, they can't fathom that you could be really good at that many things. And I was good at those things, but I wasn't able to be as great as I wanted to be. And that's why I niched down. The most common objection or the common question is that, if I just focus on this one specific area, then I lose out on all these other opportunities. But then you actually dilute your focus by focusing on everything and being scattered. So yeah. It's been a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed it. Coming to the end, I know you have some work, that you like to share. How can audience find you, contact you? I know you have you're a best-selling author as well. So tell the audience about that. So I have 2 books. My first book was called The Passion Pursuit, which was about how to pivot from brick and mortar to doing your own thing. And then my second book is Unleashing Influence, which is teaching you how to use social media to build your personal brand. So both of those are available on Amazon. But if the stuff that I'm talking about seems like it might be something that you need a little bit of help with, you can reach out to me at info@unleashinginfluence.com or check me out on LinkedIn. It's listed as Dr. Angela Mulrooney, and I will be so happy to set up a call with you to see how I can help you with your brand.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Angela, it's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed the lessons, the conversation, hearing about your journey, very inspiring. So thanks so much. And we look forward to having you as a future guest on the show.
Wonderful. Thanks, Chris.
What a fantastic show. I hope you enjoyed our very special guest. Just remember, as a shout out to our this week's sponsor, cityvest.com. Cityvest gives you access to the best real estate private equity funds with enhanced investment terms, verified due diligence, and lower risk. You can check them out at cityvest.com or click on the link in the show notes below to hear about their upcoming investment offerings. If you enjoyed that episode, don't forget, that's just the free content. We also have paid premium content subscription with better guests, information, updates, and discussions that can't be accessed anywhere else. You can subscribe to our premium content by clicking on the link in the show notes below to subscribe. Just a quick note, members who sign up for the bottom floor price introductory the first year will be grandfathered into that price for life. I expect the monthly subscription amount to increase quickly next year and the year after, so don't delay. I'm excited that you made it for another episode. You are truly the best. If you've been following the show for a while, you know that my passion is to bring you the education you need to find your path to financial freedom. Please come back week after week for new content, new resources, and great guests. Until then, if you haven't already, please be sure to check out the website, www.drchrislewmdphd.com for more support. I'll see you next week.